Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. Let's go through some breaking news from continental Africa. And please do us a favor by subscribing to this channel because that really helps us a lot, and we shall forever be grateful to you. So let's get on with our first story for today. Gunmen kidnapped Nigerian judge and killed her guard. That gunmen kidnapped a Nigerian judge, and in the process of kidnapping her, they killed her bodyguard. Justice Joy, a distinguished High Court judge in Nigeria, was kidnapped while returning from a court session on Monday night in southern Akwa Ibom State. The incident occurred along Uyo Okuben in Orom town, where unidentified gunmen ambushed the judge's vehicle. Tragically, the assailants not only kidnapped Justice Owona but also fatally shot her police guard during the adoption. The incident unfolded as the gunmen opened fire, targeting the judge's security detail before swiftly taking Justice Owona and her driver away. This is very tragic, and my thoughts and prayers are with the judge and her family. I hope the policemen can do their job in rescuing this poor lady. Let me just say this: Nigeria has a problem of insecurity. There is so much insecurity in Nigeria, and sometimes you will wonder why a great country like Nigeria is so unsafe. Because let me be honest here. Let me be honest. It's not like I'm hating on Nigeria, or it's not like I'm just trying to deframe Nigeria. That's not my point here. Now, I understand that we need to portray a good image of Africa. I understand that it's good for us to paint Africa in a very positive light. But I also believe that if we saw something going wrong, as good and honest people, as people who want to be very objective, we must also say it. If we saw something going wrong, we have to say it. Because I believe that the reason why Nigeria in particular and Africa as a whole is where it is because most too often we, the people, have sat quietly and just watched when things went wrong. When something is going wrong, we do not say anything. Okay, we do not question our elected officials. We do not hold them accountable if they do not deliver. And this has emboldened them into doing whatever they want to do without any regard for us, the people. Nigeria is super rich. Nigeria is the largest oil producing country in Africa. Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa. Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa. Nigeria shouldn't be the way it is. And I have said this like many times on this show. A few Nigerians are so rich. And a lot of Nigerians are so broke. The wealth gap, the wealth disparity between the rich and the poor is despicable. And insecurity in Nigeria has been on the rise. So how can you explain all this? And how can you? Really, how can you explain all this? So like I said before, we hope the policemen will do their job to rescuing this judge, and we hope they will do more to protect the people in Nigeria. Because if your own government cannot protect you, then what is the point of having that government in place? But let's move on to our second story for the day. Guinea, death toll rises after fuel depot explosion. The death toll resulting from the explosion and fire at Guinea's main fuel depot increased from 14 to 18 on Tuesday night. The government announced the minimum reopening of downtown Conakry's administrations and the resumption of diesel supply through the country on Wednesday. The incident occurred on Sunday night in the port area of Kaloum, Conakry's administrative and business district, causing extensive material damage and hurting economic activities. Well, this is very tragic, and we hope people can be more careful next time. And we hope a thorough investigation will be carried out as to the reason of this explosion. And if people are found responsible for this, they should be brought to book. Because I am not saying that that might be the case, but as an African who understand how things work in Africa, people always like to cut corners in Africa. Like, they won't do what was necessary to prevent things like this from happening. They will cut corners. They will go and they get substandard materials, and they will not really put all safety measures in place. And before we know it, things like this will start to happen. So I hope that our thorough investigation will be carried out, and anybody who is found responsible will be held accountable. But let's move on to our next story for the day. France closes embassy in Niger, marking a definitive split. France has closed their embassy in Niger, and this has been on the pipeline for a while now. The rift between France and Niger has just kept on getting larger and larger. And can you really blame Niger? Can you really blame them? Because when I talk about this, people think that sometimes I blame France for every single thing that Africa has been going through, well, at least French-speaking African countries. That's not even my point of blaming. That's just me stating out what I think is the truth. And for any of you who might be doubting if that is the truth or not, can just go online and do your own research. I think from there you will have an understanding on exactly what is going on. France in Africa, no good. I will say this again. France in Africa, no good. Morocco is doing very well. Morocco used to be a French colony, but they broke all ties with France. Algeria, Tunisia, these countries are doing very well for themselves because they broke all ties with France. Even in Asia, you have Vietnam, you have, I think, if I'm not, Cambodia. They are doing pretty well. They do not have any single ties with France. But come to Central and West Africa. All those countries that have ties with France are doing relatively very, very poor. From Senegal to Cote d'Ivoire to Benin to Mali to Togo to all those countries. Go to Central Africa, to Chad, to Central African Republic, Gabon. None of them is doing well on an average level. None. Now, they might have some few roads here and there, but on an average level, none. And even before all this thing between Niger and France, you saw how Niger was doing. Niger was a very, very broke country, even though they have in abundance one of the most valuable raw mineral that countries would love to have. This mineral is used to produce enough electricity. But you'll be shocked to know that Niger was buying 90% of their power supply from Nigeria. And Nigeria itself doesn't have enough power to power their own country. But yes, they were willing to sell Niger 90% of their electricity. This is so crazy in Africa. You would think that before someone go selling something, right, they would have it in abundance. That's what you would think, right? Because before I sell food, I should make sure my children have eaten, isn't it? It's but normal. That is how it is supposed to be. But in Africa, you'll be shocked to find out that countries in Africa will rather sell power to a neighbor than supply their own citizens. Nigeria cannot boast of a constant electricity. But yes, they were willing to sell 90% to Niger. Niger cannot produce this commodity by themselves, so they have to buy from Nigeria, even though they produce abundance of uranium. And France was using this uranium from Niger to power their system in Paris and also sell some to other European countries. While Niger was in darkness. And then you come here and tell me that France in Africa has been great, that France's involvement in Africa has been a net positive. Really? But let's continue. I'm so happy they are gone. If you ask me personally, I think we do not need France in Africa. France should close their embassy. France should get out with their companies, take them all out. France should remove all their military bases in Africa. France should deport all their soldiers or take back all their soldiers. France should collect their currency. The France CFA is not a great thing for Africa. It's not doing Africa any favor. The franc CFA is hindering the progress of Africa. Africa should have their own currency. If you ask me, that's my take. But let's continue with this article. France has decided to close its embassy in Niger, where it is no longer able to function normally or carry out its missions. According to diplomatic source, definitively confirming a split between the two countries. This extremely rare measure comes after Niamey announced on December 12 the departure of all French soldiers deployed in Niger as part of the anti-jihadist effort by December 22nd, which is this Friday. This marks the culmination of strained relationships between France and Niger since the generals took power in Niamey during a coup on July 26. So since after the coup, France and Niger haven't seen eye to eye, and I would say kudos to the Nigerian military junta. Kudos to them because they are doing something good for their country. I just have to say one thing. They have to be very careful with what they do. Because if there's one thing I know about France, they never give up. They are a country that play the long game. And they will always look for a way to get back at Niger. So the military junta in Niger should be very careful. And they also should do what is good for the Nigerian. Because I believe that their only mandate as of now is to bring first and foremost peace and security and development. If they can do these two things, I think the people in Niger will always have them at a very high regard. But let's move to our next story for today. Russia ready to send Tunisia more grain, Lavrov said. Like that Russia and Tunisia are having a bilateral ties, and Russia is ready to supply more grains to Tunisia. But before we get into that story, I do not think that Africa should be begging for food from other people. I have said this on this platform a couple of times that do not make the mistake to think that you have enough leverage when someone is feeding you, because the common consensus is that whoever feeds you owns you. Okay, if someone is out there feeding you, that person owns you. And that is why I have always kicked against the whole idea of aid to Africa. Because all this aid to Africa have not really done anything to the African people. Because ask yourself this question and be honest with yourself. If foreign aid to the continent was supposed to be something that saves the continent from itself, that brings the continent out of poverty and starvation and hunger, that help develop the continent, won't that objective be achieved by now? How long have we been collecting this aid from anyone who offered it to us? And where are we right now? Where are we? We are still begging and begging and begging, which just go to say that the so-called aid and donations haven't really worked out, has it? No, you answer me. Has it really worked out? So why keep on begging when you know very well that begging would not solve your problem? It won't. But let's continue. I just think that Africa should be able to grow their own food. Our leaders should be able to do what is necessary to bring our continent out of all these problems that we are facing. Not all at the same time, but like one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Let's continue. Russia was ready to supply more grain to Tunisia. Moscow's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, said Thursday during a visit to the northern African country, grappling with shortages fueled by drought. At the meeting with Tunisia President Kais Saied in the capital Tunis, Lavrov said Russia's crop yields had been good for the second or third year in a row and that it was willing to help Tunisia. There is interest in increasing deliveries of our grain, said Lavrov, without specifying the conditions or cost. There is always a condition, and there is always a cost, and there is always a hidden agenda behind this. Do not believe for a second that this is just like a charitable thing that Russia is doing. I have told you before, the Westerners never ever do things out of the goodness of their heart. They are not like, oh my God, I saw these hungry people, I saw these starving people, so I should maybe give them something for free. No, 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 no. It's never like that. Do not fool yourself. It's never like that. Anything they give you, there is a motive behind. Okay? There is never, ever a free lunch. Never, ever. There is always a catch. And ask yourself, why should they give you a free lunch? Do you think you deserve a free lunch? And what have you done to deserve a free lunch? And why should they even give it to you? Should anybody be giving you a free lunch? That is a question you should be asking yourself. That is a question you should be asking yourself. So we hope that whatever or however this whole transaction carries through, Tunisia should be well aware of what they are getting into, because I do not believe Russia to be a saint, and I know they will want something in return. And I hope that whatever they want in return should be what Tunisia was willing to give. So these are the stories we're able to cover for today, and I would like to hear your take on them. Which of the stories did resonated with you, and what do you have to say about them? Leave us a comment in the comment section below, because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. And please do not forget to like this video, share the video, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel, because that helps us a lot, and we shall forever be grateful to you. So thank you, and see you in the next one.